Welcome to the world of Lidhir, where mystery, monsters, and dying magic come together to create a tapestry as diverse as its characters. I bring to you A Glimmer of Fate. Chapter 1 follows the life of Soldra, a washed-out captain at the end of her ropes. Thunder cracked overhead like the snap of a mast beneath the weight of its sails. Soldra stood at the helm of her ship, a fire burning in her chest as the Stormbreaker came into view amidst the darkened waves. Rain fell in sheets, slickening the waterlogged deck of the Shoal Dancer and her crew. "Captain!" her first mate yelled through the din of wind and rain, stumbling up the stairs as the ship rocked to the side, threatening to spill him overboard. "The rigging, it's too much!" "We are so close, Dennings. If we stop now, we will lose her." Soldra saw the horror in Dennings' eyes. She ignored it as she spun the helm, trying to keep up with the ghost ship. With 1 decade chasing the Stormbreaker already wasted, Soldra wasn't willing to give up now when she had the ship in her sights. Like a serpent's tongue, lightning forked, illuminating the pregnant clouds roiling in the sky. Ghosts of former captains and crewmates darkened the deck of the Stormbreaker, working the sails and pulling the ship around to meet the Shoal Dancer. "Yes!" Soldra cried, her heart lifted in her throat. "All I have to do is set foot on the deck of the ship and she's mine." Legends often speak of remarkable creatures, stunning landscapes, valiant knights, and fearless abominations. Legends never speak of those that fail, and more than anything, Soldra wanted to be known as a conqueror of the seas. The mightiest captain with an army of ghosts at her command. "Soldra, stop. You will never catch it." Endra, Soldra's goddess and patron of sailors, begged her to give up the chase. But Soldra didn't listen, for the cries of the Stormbreaker's crew filled her ears, their screeching commands echoing through the waters between ships, followed by muffled blasts and splintering of wood as cannons tore apart the Shoal Dancer. It wasn't long until Soldra learned she lost the battle before it had even begun. If it weren't for the storm churning the waters below, the waves would have shown the tragedy unfolding between the immortal ship and a captain that couldn't give up. Red-tinted breaks in the waves crashing against the hull of the Stormbreaker as the bodies of Soldra's crew floated to the depths. One final blast and the Shoal Dancer was pulled beneath the waves, taking its captain with her. The crew aboard the ghost ship welcomed their new members as the storm eased in the sky and the waves slowly faded into crystal clear waters until there was nothing left but endless stars. Sirens picked up the carnage, singing a funeral dirge and carrying the bodies to rest in the watery graveyard below. The captain herself slowly struggled with the remains of her ship. "You promise?" Soldra released the last of her air to say the words, freezing cold water pressing against her skin like knives. Shattered wood and frayed edges of sail brushed against her body like hungry sharks as the fire in her heart slowly died, her lungs burning for air as she tried to reach the surface. Soldra. Black spots popped in her vision, lungs aching, begging to breathe. Soldra, what have you done? She was born a nobody, but refused to die a nobody. Hot sand cradled her face as salt burned her eyes. The summer sun, blinking across the ocean, brought a gentle breeze to caress her cheek, bringing with it the acrid smell of a harbor. Sea water burned up her throat, spilling out of her lips as foam with each racking cough forced more fluid from her lungs. "I should just drown you." Endra stood in the shallows, gazing out towards the white-capped waves, with hair the color of lagoons on a bright summer day and skin the soft ebony of the cliff face behind her. "When will you learn?" "Should, but can't." Soldier spat the salt from her lips, ignoring Endara's question. The relationship between patron and bearer was complicated. A bargain struck and agreed upon between a goddess and their charge was binding to both parties. Once accepted, the bearer couldn't die until the contract was completed or the mortal chose to end the contract themselves. Then, and only then, could a contract be absolved early. Most deities took it upon themselves to push their charges to the brink of insanity in order to break free of the unwanted agreement. But Endara wasn't just any deity. But when Soldier made her proposition to Endara, she made sure to word it carefully, ensuring Endara couldn't wiggle free of their agreement like so many other deities had. Though the connection often vexed Endara, the goddess was reluctant to admit she had grown fond of the relentless captain and her endless desire to be the conqueror of the sea. No, but my brother can, and will. Maybe he should. Endara sighed heavily, the winds picking up around them as the breath left her lungs. When she first realized how ironclad their agreement was, their relationship was bitter and strained, but over the years it seemed the steadfast and bullheaded captain had worn the goddess down into something akin to friendship. A goddess caring for a mortal was a strange sight indeed. Spend some time on shore, Sol. It'll be good for you. Endara glanced back to Soldier, her eyes as turbulent as a storm-raked sea before vanishing into the waves, leaving her charge to wonder where she was in Endra. Fortunately, Sol didn't have to look far to realize where her goddess chose to bring her. Under any other circumstances, Soldier would have welcomed the sight of a familiar harbor, the feel of sand beneath her boots, crash of waves against the shores, and the rocky cliff faces sheltering the Bay of Portsmouth from the wilds of Endara's domain. Under any other circumstances, Soldier might have felt joy to be back at home. As the bells of small fishing vessels echoed across the waters, Soldier groaned. When she begged Endara for safe harbor while thrashing in the freezing depths as her ship sank, Soldier had pictured Lanier or Dracus, ports she loved because of the colors that surrounded the piers and the people who ran them. Not the dismal excuse for a harbor she escaped 10 years ago with big dreams and wild ideas of chasing a myth. She would rather be anywhere else on Lad here than at the behest of the port town that spat her out. If she closed her eyes, Soldier could almost trick herself into believing she was still on the deck of her ship. The waves crashing against the shore were actually rocking the hull of her boat. The wind wasn't whipping her auburn hair, salted and gray in places. Instead, it caught the canvas of her sails, snapping the fabric like a whip. The sea wasn't in her mouth, burning the unhealed cuts across her skin. It was clinging to the sides of her ship, eating away at the wood. Another wave crashed against her boots, urging her to get on with the shit show waiting for her. Why Endara brought her here was a mystery. Portsmouth wasn't a bustling harbor with dozens of ships docking every day with plenty of ships to barter your way onto, or better yet, steal and commandeer once out on open waters. The harbor was barely staying afloat 10 years ago, and now she doubted anybody would be able to help her, let alone be willing to part with their vessel. Soldier rolled the stiffness out of her neck, only for her eyes to land on the effigy of her goddess carved in stone, stalwart and proud along the cliffside. The promise was simple but concrete. With a heavy sigh, Soldier turned and set off along the beach back towards the place she swore never to return to. She needed to find a way out of this godforsaken port as soon as possible. Surrounded on all sides by tall, sharp cliff faces, the thin strip of beach didn't offer passengers a tropical getaway, nor did this torn apart and weathered landscape hold the secret to growing anything. To suggest Portsmouth as a successful harbor would be a stretch of the imagination. The only reason why the harbor existed was because it was too far to sail from the east side of Endra to the west. The harbor was nothing more than a backwater, good-for-nothing poor excuse of a port town, specifically designed to be a place where ships could dock for repairs, drop cargo for the towns further inland, restock water, and keep moving. Throughout the town were homes and businesses built from driftwood and ships no longer worthy of seafaring, creating buildings with holes the size of your fist and walls as thin as paper. Wandering up the road, dodging shallow ruts carved in the mud from caravans trading supplies, Soldier wondered if she would recognize any faces, or if anyone would recognize hers. When she left, she hadn't left in the best of spirits, leaving behind broken promises and unfulfilled obligations with no intent to return. However, she had changed a lot over the last 10 years. Muscle hardened curves into lines, while life at sea had left her with a deep russet complexion over the formerly gray pallor most common in coastal folk. A ring of tattoos laced up her right arm signified not only her devotion to Endra, but her rank on a ship in the years spent at sea. Each mark indicated another boat defeated and a successful raid on enemy waters carved into her skin like notches on a headboard. What? I never said Soldier was an honest sailor. Though, like most pirates, Soldier had started off as a privateer carrying supplies to bigger ports until she found what she was looking for and changed the wind in her sails to seek out her fortune. And she almost succeeded, too. The weather turned dark as storm clouds rolled in off the sea, pushing people inside and off the streets, leaving Soldier with precious few options. Did she hunker down in an alleyway to wait out the gales that could last hours, or did she suck up her pride and enter the only inn left standing and risk being recognized? Sighing heavily, knowing the wind and rain would tear her down like the rocks across the cliffs, Soldier decided to chance ridicule over hypothermia. Besides, in all the ports she had landed in, nothing tasted sweeter than the old dwarven ale served in the south. Out of the darkness of the inn, two patrons shoved past Soldra and into the gales rolling off the sea. Her quick fingers brushed into their pockets, alleviating one of their coin purse while snagging an official-feeling document from the other as she, herself, slipped into the darkened interior of the tavern. And that, ladies and gentlemen, completes Chapter 1 for A Glimmer of Fate. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this new direction of my channel. Let me know what you think of the story so far and about Soldra. And Chapter 2 will follow the life of Orchard and Dolan, a hybrid and a human, an unlikely pair brought together through interesting means. I am looking forward to bringing you their story as well. And don't worry, it's all connected. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave me a like and a comment down below. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, as this will be the direction my channel will be going in from here on out. And I am oh so grateful for everybody here who has followed me from the beginning and has started following me now and beyond. Thank you very much, and I will see you all very soon.